Hello, 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 hello. Once again, Perseverance Pioneers. Welcome to the Perseverance Mindset Podcast. I am your host, as you know me, John Zansura. We're coming to you live once again from our famous Dialogue Den here in our studio as we sip some of our famous black Italian roast coffee. It always hits the spot for sure. So today we have a very exciting episode for everyone out there that loves military equipment, AI, artificial intelligence, the future of weaponry. So this episode is jam-packed with a bunch of gold little nuggets in discussing from muskets to autonomous warfare, AI in modern warfare. This is the episode today. So from black powder muskets in 1775 to drone swarms and AI-controlled jet fighters in the year of 2025. Warfare sure has evolved beyond human hands on the battlefield. We're talking robots, artificial intelligence, drones, drone strikes. And what does that mean for the future of warfare? And what does that mean for the future of our warfighters? So in this episode, we break down the explosive rise in artificial intelligence in modern day warfare, combat, surveillance, cyber warfare, and beyond, based on incredible articles that we've read here at the Perseverance Mindset Podcast. The one we're going to be referencing today is one by Amir Husain from the National Defense University. So basically, what happens when machines decide who lives and who dies? Scary thought, right? And are enemies of soldiers becoming enemies of sensors and code? So this episode is for you. If any of this you would love to hear about today, this is your episode. So this is episode 46. So in this show, we'll explore how warfare has transformed some of the grit and some of the black powder smoke of yesteryear's muskets to today's AI-powered autonomous military systems. We're going to unpack just how far we've come from human-triggered shots to machines that can find, fix, and eliminate threats without a single soldier on the battlefield, on that war ground. So this episode draws inspiration from that article, like we were all saying, titled, AI is Shaping the Future of War. And we'll explain its insights, layer its historical context, and talk about what this means for the future of warfare. And of course, global affairs and the warrior mindset, and has become a popular phrase today, the warrior ethos. So let's dig in. Early warfare, muscle, grit, muskets. In the 18th century, war was won by brute force, sheer manpower. The U.S. Army was founded in June 14, 1775, and during the Revolutionary War, 27,000, count them, 27,000 troops fought under General George Washington, sooner or later to become President Washington. They used flintlock muskets, bayonets, cannons, each shot manually loaded and reloaded with the black powder put into the rifle, shot out. Strategy was communicated via messengers, human messengers, drum rolls, not digital signals or satellites. So we've come a long way. We've come an extremely long way from the Revolutionary War to the Civil War to the Spanish-American War, the French and Indian War, where it was brute force that won these conflicts. And it's just incredible when you look at the rich history that we have. And strategy, although communicated by human sources, victories like the Battle of Saratoga were made possible through courage, logistics, determination, not through automation as we see today. Even in the Civil War, over 2 million Union soldiers marched, often with nothing more than their rifles and field training. It was the era of trenches, horses, and smoke. Think about it. Entire battlefields operated without GPS, night vision, even radios. For our World War II vets out there, for our Korean War vets, for our Vietnam veterans out there, for our Desert Storm veterans. Think about that. Just think of if you are privileged to serve, and we thank all of our troops for their service. If you're imagining doing half of what you would have done today in modern warfare in the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, as we've evolved, think about it. Entire battlefields operated without crucial operations or tactics that we use today. Could you imagine still fighting in that conflict, just around that? So orders had to be shouted over gunfire. As you're loading that flintlock, you're screaming the advancement or the retreat of your soldiers or fellow troops. The outcome of the war depended on men's grit, commanders' intuition, and relentless human effort and relentless human sacrifice. So let's get into the industrial warfare piece of this AI segment. So mechanization, we were mechanizing the first glimpse of automation. World War I, World War II introduced mechanized warfare. Tanks, airplanes, automatic weapons changed the game completely, changed how wars would be fought. And we are living through that experience today. And radios allowed for real-time coordination during those conflicts, and massive troop movements were choreographed with logistical precision. Imagine the advancements this gave our warfighters before leading up to World War II. The U.S. Army had swelled to over 8 million soldiers. 8 million soldiers, a long, long way away from General George Washington's 20,000 soldier command, many militia, many Minutemen, citizen soldier type, and radar and code breaking gave birth to the first computation warfare tools, precursors to modern AI. The Manhattan Project, which produced the world's first atomic bomb, the A-bomb, also demonstrated power of multidisciplinary innovation in war. Drones, not just yet, but the foundation for automation was being laid in those days. The earliest drones were target practice tools. Computing machines like the British technology or American ENIAC helped analyze military patterns. Humans still made the calls, but machines were beginning to aid in that process, that integration. Now let's talk about how we had some remote control revolution in drones, which digitized battle space. In the 90s, we saw a rise of remotely piloted drones, Reapers, Predators, changing how surveillance and strike operations were conducted. During the Iraq and Afghanistan conflicts, UAVs became indispensable. Pilots thousands of miles away could surveil, target, and engage their enemies. That was engage their target. And it was the first step away from humans on the front line, scaling back from that human capital for our brave mothers and fathers, sons and daughters not being in those battlefields, controlling a lot of what was going on, but not directly being involved in the conflict. We began seeing software assisted targeting, increasingly automated logistics. The concept of digital battlefield emerged, and GPS enabled troops. Yes, digitally enabled troops, real time satellite data, encrypted communications. Technology was now central to military dominance. And yet, all these systems still required large human crews. So UAVs needed human pilots and analysts. AI was just getting started. There wasn't even a thought of AI being able to do half of what it does in those days, running the battlefield table, running the warfare plans, running more of the logistics. There always needed to be human pilots, human analysts, because AI was getting its feet wet, getting off the ground. So now enter in AI hyperwar, algorithm combat. So the article goes on to say it introduces the concept of hyperwar, a new age where AI compresses the decision-making timeline, the OODA loop, observe, orient, decide, act, developed by the military strategist John Boyd, used to take hours and days. Now AI can complete the cycle in a matter of seconds. You heard that correctly by me. Seconds. Imagine a drone system swarming, either being launched or given their direction or being controlled, swarming the targets that they're supposed to hit, coordinating formations, executing strikes on their own by how they've been programmed. This isn't science fiction. In DARPAS Alpha Dogfight Challenge, an AI pilot defeated a human 5-1. You heard that correctly, 5-1. And for all of our perseverance pioneers out there that listen to anything that's been developing with AI in general, not in this warfare episode, you'll be aware of Deep Blue. Deep Blue is almost the first instance of a computer beating a human at a chess game, a world-renowned chess champion in the late 80s, early 90s, I believe. And going into that, it defeated the human pilot 5-1. The F-16s flew simulated missions where AI reacted faster, anticipated moves better, and executed more lethal actions quicker. So all the results we're talking about is just a matter of time before AI changes the way we already do battle. It already has. We're not waiting that day. It's here right now. So AI superiority lies in its processing power. Thousands of input, thousands of sheets of data, thousands of instructions and commands analyzed instantly. This shift is so profound because strategists argue that human commanders might not be able to keep up. You heard me correctly. Human commanders might not be able to keep up with AI. The battlefield is now a place of machine logic and reaction times speed. So just think of that. From a time period of the Revolutionary War, loading a flintlock, putting gunpowder down a barrel, from the times of having automatic weapons and tanks and planes in World War I, World War II, going up to the Vietnam War, Korean War, you had Operation Iraqi Freedom, you had Desert Storm, all of that. Now to a point of where the battlefield is more machine logic and reaction speed than anything else. It's truly groundbreaking in AI, this AI in warfare episode. So also, let's talk about the autonomy, the decentralized command. A single UAV is powerful, but a swarm of hundreds, each making decisions independently while communicating with others, it's just changing the game. It's changing the battlefield. It's changing how we think about warfare now and into the future. Swarm AI is inspired by nature, like how birds or bees coordinate without a central leader. But China and the US are racing to deploy swarming drone technology that can overwhelm enemy defenses. Now, this is where it gets interesting, real interesting. That technology can overwhelm defense systems, disable radar, strike multiple targets simultaneously, unlike traditional air power. Setting a target, determining a time, determining if you are picked up by enemies' radar, enemies' systems to be able to go ahead and make that strike. But unlike traditional air power, you don't lose $1 billion jet and a pilot, just a few $1,000 drones. Now, what do you think is changing the game on warfare from being able to lose possibly highly trained pilots, $1 billion pieces of equipment and jets, or just a few $1,000 drones? And they're not controlled like remote control cards. These simply deploy, they coordinate, and they strike based on programmed objectives and environmental data. Basically, however the machine or the drone is programmed, and all the data it's given is how it determines how successful it is in that mission. So human oversight may approve the mission, but once it's launched, that information and that data set and the future of how that battle is fought is fully on control of that machine, of that drone, of that code. So let's make our way to the most interesting segment of our episode here on the Perseverance Mindset podcast of AI in warfare. So AI in cyber and information warfare isn't just kinetic. Cyber attacks can paralyze infrastructure, leak state secrets, and destroy satellite systems. AI now powers offensive and defensive cyber tools, from identifying system vulnerabilities to launching denial of self-service attacks. AI enables nations to operate in the shadows, silently, without being detected, and with a devastating effect. AI also powers misinformation campaigns, fake videos, synthetic voices, mass-scale propaganda that can destabilize democracies without firing a shot. With this new tool, like anything else with AI, the benefits of it are so impactful. But what are the downsides to that? There's always great technology, but also when it comes to it, there's always going to be people that exploit that technology for evil, for personal gain, financial gain, or to basically just to win wars and to just engage in conflict. So the battlefield now includes social media, financial systems, and power grids, all monitored and influenced by AI algorithms. Really incredible when you think about it. We're talking about going from the muskets of the Battle of Saratoga. Now we're talking to the hyper drones in the Russia-Ukraine war and beyond. We spent an episode talking about the F-47, the first sixth-grade jet that the United States is planning on building. Boeing is going to be taking that project on, and it's going to be a plane, a fighter pilot that also has drone capability. So the plane, the fighter pilot, the jet won't just have the weapon of the jet itself. They'll have also drone capabilities to control from the fighter pilot. Incredible breakthroughs in warfare technology and American grit. So the only thing that is really, really troubling when you look at it, So let's get into the ethics and the dangers of this fully autonomous warfare. I know everybody's expecting me to go off the rails on this and talk about the Terminator movies and talk about how they're just becoming smart and trying to get us to let our guard down so it can take over our systems and launch a bunch of nuclear warheads off. No, that's not where we're getting on this podcast, on this episode. We're exploring how it really is impactful, how AI is changing the dynamics of warfare, and how it's changing the game completely. But the idea of that machine, that AI making life and death decisions without human oversight, this is what's deeply controversial. What happens when an AI misidentifies a target or is hacked mid-operation, mid-mission? International laws and military codes of ethics are racing to catch up on this, but can they catch up in time? The U.S. has pledged to keep a human in the loop for all lethal decisions. But in a hyper-war scenario, delays cost lives. So who is going to make those decisions? How do we ensure that accountability, that transparency? Is an AI-driven war still just war? And what about escalation? A machine might retaliate before diplomacy has a chance to even interact or intervene or to even begin. That's what people are talking about. That's the scary part in this scenario. Say this was brought into our nuclear systems. Say that was already being implemented out there. And then AI goes in there and it takes the human out of the loop. One mistake can cost the whole world to explode and be ignited, because once the button is pushed, once the first missile is launched, there's no going back. So as we're talking about, it's been so great to talk to you today about this AI and the future of warfare. As we're talking about this, we have to think about the future warrior, the future soldiers. Less boots, more gigabytes. So in 2025, the U.S. Army has around 465,000 active duty soldiers. But the future might not need nearly as many. Instead of battalions, we may deploy fleets of drones, AI medics, cyber units. Something to think about, and it's really an engaging conversation. That's why we wanted to bring it up to all of our Perseverance pioneers today. And robots they already carry military gear. They already scan terrain. And they already detect explosives. So what can't they be programmed to do? So AI systems triage the wounded, navigate unmapped areas, and recommend tactical moves. The human warrior will shift from a fighter to a controller, strategist, or plainly just an AI supervisor. So physical strength will matter less than the data fluency, strategic reasoning, and system oversight. So from the muskets of 1775 to AI-controlled jet fighters in the year of 2025, the U.S. Army and warfare itself has changed more than any other institution in the history of our country. The future may not belong to armies of men, but to networks of autonomous systems guided by a few human minds. Humans in the loop, right? So as citizens, as leaders, as thinkers, as Perseverance pioneers, we must ask, how do we ensure AI in warfare remains ethical, accountable, and just, while giving all of our warfighters everything they need to complete their missions for the good of the country? What's our responsibility to our soldiers and to our human beings behind the machines and the civilians in their path raging in these conflicts? Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Hamas. So there's many things that the discussion has to continue. And we're so glad we were able to discuss this with all of you folks today on the Perseverance Mindset Podcast. So it's incredible when we've seen how far we've come, and we can't wait to continue this discussion from right here in our famous dialogue den. So thanks for joining me on today's episode of episode 46. Remember to stay curious, stay resilient, and stay grounded in truth, even as technology takes to the skies. Thank you, everyone, and have an amazing night.